Hey friends, what up? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Yud Test, Daf 19 of Masechta Ksubis. Friends, who could tell me what Daf... These landscapers, you know what I mean? Anybody ever been to the United States of America? Dude, you can't go outside because everyone... It's the big catch-22. Maybe I've complained about this already, but... everybody's got these beautiful lawns outside, but you can't go outside because everyone's maintaining their lawns and it's so freaking loud. Either you have the landscaper over or your neighbors do. Yeah, there's always a landscaper somewhere. Anyways, I thought maybe I just heard that. What would we do right now if they came by with the leaf blower? That would be very inconvenient. Alright. We gotta go weiter. Thank God I didn't hear a leaf blower. So, Hapesha also Hapesha heater, friends. Hapesha also Hapesha heater. So, it's a good sug, you know? I think so. I'm getting tired of myself, what am I going to tell you? I still have some leftover coffee from the morning, but I gotta go weiter. Okay, when Daf Yud Chesed is about 5-6 lines from the bottom, Tanu Rabbanon, the rabbis taught in Ne'emanim the Foslo, they're not believed to make the document possible. Divrei Meir, that's what Meir is opinion. V'chacham Ne'emanim, the Chacham say they are believed. Some of the Rabbanon ki taimayu shepesh also a peshiter. New friends, who can tell me what we're talking about over here? So if you look at the Mishnah, what did the Mishnah say? I'm going to back up about 15 lines on Daf Yud Ches Amud Beis to the Mishnah. Ha'edim she'amru, you have witnesses, and they come to testifying about a document. You have two, right? You have a document. It says Ruvain lent $100 to Shimon. Why is somebody calling me? Don't they know that I'm recording Babylon Talmud? Excuse me, I have to yell at somebody. 1 second. Now you're on Babylon Talmud. Alright, Josh, say hi to everybody at Babylon Talmud.
Hi, Babylon Talmud.
Huh?
Hey, learn Stark. Learn Stark, everyone.
Josh says that you should learn Stark. Alright, Joshua, I should call you I should call you back afterwards? Or do you want to chat now?
No.
Alright, where were we? I had to take that phone call. Alrighty, but now it's on mute, so nobody is going to interrupt anymore. So we were talking about Edim Shomu Ksav Yodenu Uzeh. So if you have witnesses, right, so you have a document. The document says that Ruvain knows, Ruvain borrowed $100 from Shimon. And so there's a document, there are witnesses on the document that are attesting to the fact that this really happened. And they say, yup, these are our signatures, alright. But look, we were coerced into signing that document, or we were minors at the time, or we were unable, we were avadim, whatever, we were people who were unable to give testimony at the time. So the Mishnah says, look, they're believed that, because Apesha also Apesha Yiter, that they're coming on their own accord and they're saying, look, these are our signatures, but it's inadmissible, right? We were forced to put we had an offer we couldn't refuse. Luca Brasi came with Don Corleone, and he put a gun to his head, and he said, either your brains or your signature are going to be on this paper. And they said, look, we'd rather our signature. Okay. Anyway, so now for today's Gemara, so Tanu Rabbanan, about 5-6 lines from the bottom of the page, Ein Ne'emanim the Foslo de Meir. So Meir says, look, when they say this is our signature, but we were forced, we got an offer we couldn't refuse, so then Reb Meir says, look, it's not going to invalidate the document. The document's still valid, it's still trustworthy. We can rely upon that money, that document, and we can force Ruvain to pay back Shimon. Chacham say, of course, if they say that Don Corleone came with Luca Brasi, and they said either your brain or your signature goes on the paper, and they put their signature there, so the Chacham say you better bet your bottom dollar that it disqualifies the document. The document is inadmissible. Now the Gemara says, I understand the opinion of the rabbis Hapesha asu hapeshitir. They came and they said, yes, these are our signatures, but we had an offer we couldn't refuse. Ella, the Reb Meir, my time, but what's the dealio with Reb Meir? Why would Reb Meir say that the document is nonetheless valid? Okay, Bishlam Psule Eidos, I understand why if they say these are our signatures, but we were slaves at the time. So, because something doesn't really make sense there, right? Meaning, I understand what Reb Meir is saying is that the document is still valid if they say that, yes, these are our signatures, but we were slaves at the time. Something doesn't add up because Shimon, who's lending money to Ruvain, would, if Shimon's lending $100 to Ruvain, and he wants to have a document so that he knows that he's going to get his money back, and he puts two witnesses sign on the document to make sure it's valid, well, he's going to make sure that those witnesses are valid witnesses. Otherwise, he doesn't have a document. Clearly, he wants a document to make sure he gets paid back, and he's going to be sure that the witnesses signing on the document are witnesses who are going to be able to, help him extract the money. And therefore, it doesn't really make sense for them to say, yeah, these are our signatures, but we were slaves. What do you mean slaves? What, Shimon would have you sign the document if you were slaves and you weren't able to provide testimony? So it doesn't add up over there. So therefore, the document is nonetheless valid. Ketanim Nami, Shimon ben Lakish. And also, if they said, look, these are our signatures, but we were minors. It's like Rish Lakish, Dam Rish Lakish, Chazaka, Edim Chos Min Al Ashtar, Elim Kenaisa Begadol. The Rish Lakish says, look, everything that has to do with documents is with adults. The people, the lender, the borrower, the witness, everyone's going to be adults. And also, Shimon's going to make sure that the witnesses are adults. And therefore, it doesn't really make sense for them to say, look, these are our signatures, but we were minors. Shimon would have made sure that they're not minors. It doesn't make sense, and therefore the document is still valid. We can't trust them that they were minors at the time. Ella anus in my time, but says the Gemara, I don't understand this. I don't understand why if the witnesses come and say, yes, these are our signatures, but Don Corleone came with Luca Brasi and said either your brains or your signature goes on this paper. And they decided that they would put their signature on the paper, and they come and they say, look, these are our signatures, but it was forced. Why? No, shouldn't we believe them? Shouldn't we say that this was a document that was procured through coercion, and it should be inadmissible? Right? So Elanus in my time, how come they not believe the Amr of Chizda? So it says Rav Chizda, Kasav Reb Meir, because Reb Meir holds Eidim she'amu loim chasmu sheker va'alte argu, that Reb Meir's opinion is that when it comes to an offer you couldn't refuse, that if Don Corleone comes with Luca Brasi and says either your brains or your signature goes on the paper, yehargu va'yachtamu sheker, they have to put their brains on the paper rather than their name if it's false. Amar le Rava. Now Rava says to Rav Chizda, I don't understand. Hashta ilu asu lekaman lamluche aminu zil chasomu velo tiskatlun. Rava says, I don't understand. If they came to us and they said, look, here's the deal. Don Corleone came with Luca Brasi and they said to me either your brains or your signature goes on this paper, and this fellow comes to Bezdin and he says, look, what do I do? Do I put my brains or my signature on the paper? You know what we would tell them? Of course, you put your signature on the paper. He says, right, of course, as we're about to see in a second, and I think we've seen before, there's only 3 sins for which one needs to give up his life. And signing a document is not one of them. As we said, there's nothing that stands in the way of saving life. The only exceptions being idol worship, inappropriate relationships, and bloodshed. And therefore, if they would come to Bezdin and they would say that Luca Brasi and Don Corleone showed up at my house and said either your brains or the signature goes on this paper, we would say, of course, sign your name. So then, now that they actually signed on the paper, and they're coming and they're saying, look, these are our signatures, but it was through coercion, we're going to say, what were you doing? You should have put your brains on the paper. At the time of the America, rather, the reason for Meir why he says that we cannot invalidate the document like this is because Reb Meir, it's like Rav Huna says, that if a fellow admits that sort of to the contents of the document, so then you don't need to be mekayim with witnesses. What does that mean? It means that if Shimon lends $100 to Ruvain, and there's a document that says that Ruvain owes Shimon $100, if Ruvain admits and he says, yeah, it's true, I owe Shimon $100, so then you don't need to bother validating the witnesses and making sure that the witnesses, really sign on the document or whatever. If Reuven admits that he owes Shimon $100, so zeu, so you don't need to go any further. And this was a case where that exact thing happens. That Reuven had admitted to Shimon that he owed Shimon $100. So, and then these witnesses came and said, yes, these are our signatures, but Don Carleone came with Luca Brasi and said, either your brains or your signature goes on this paper, and we were coerced. Nonetheless, it doesn't matter; it's irrelevant. The document still stands because Reuven admitted to Shimon that it's true that he owes him that he Reuven owes Shimon the money, and therefore that is why the document is still valid, because it's a situation where Reuven had already admitted that he owes Shimon the money, in which case, if he admits it, he admits it, and the document is still considered a good document. Friends, I need a stick of water. My throat is dry. Hopefully there's more water down here. I don't really want to have to go upstairs to get more, but I might have to. Excuse me 1 second. Baruch Hashem, we had water down here. Thank God, that was good. Alright, let's go weiter in the Gemara, friends. Gufa, we said earlier, where am I? Oh. Gufa. Amr Rav Huna Amr Rav, says Rav Huna Rav Moda B'shtar Sheksavo, that if Reuven admits that this is a valid document and that he owes Shimon $100, in tzarich l'kaimo. So you don't need to find witnesses to make sure that the witnesses who are signed on you don't have to validate that the witnesses who are signed on the document really signed the document. I mean, if Reuven admits that he owes Shimon the money, look no further. He admitted it. Amar le Rav Nachman, Ganova Gnuve la malach. Now, Rav Nachman says to Rav Huna, wait a second. You're stealing over here a little bit, meaning you're being a little dishonest, you're being a little misleading. Because Rav Huna, you're basically making it sound like everyone agrees over here. Divrei Hakol. Moda b'shtar sheksavo in tzarich l'kaimo. Rav Huna, it sounds like everybody seems to agree with this principle, as if nobody disagreed. That here's this principle that if Reuven admits that he owes Shimon the money, you don't have to validate the witnesses of the document. It's a valid document. He admitted it. But Rav Huna, if you're saying, basically, if your opinion is like Reb Meir, that when the witnesses come and say that yes, it's their handwriting, it's their signatures, but they were coerced, and it nonetheless does not invalidate the document. It is still a valid document because Reuven had already admitted that he owes Shimon the money, and therefore it's modesh b'shtar sheksavo ein tzarich l'kaimo. So Rav Huna, if you hold like Reb Meir, just say the halacha is like Reb Meir. But clearly you're not saying the halacha is like Reb Meir, because if you say the halacha is like Reb Meir, well, the Chachamim argue against Reb Meir and say that the document is invalid. So, meaning Rav Nachman saying to Rav Huna, Rav Huna, it sounds like basically you're trying to avoid the fact that your opinion is the opinion of Reb Meir, i.e. a das yochid, because the rabbis argue against Reb Meir, and if Rav Huna, that if you say the halacha is like Reb Meir, then people won't listen to you because it's a das yochid, and we don't paskin like an individual opinion. So therefore, Rav Huna, you're basically saying it as if it's sort of an agreed upon concept that moda b'shtar sheksavo ein tzarich l'kaimu. Amar lei To which Rav Huna says to Rav Nachman, Umay Echisvir lei, how do you hold? Omar lei. So Rav Nachman says, this is how I hold. Ki also l'kaman l'dino, when they come before us in judgment, right? Rav Nachman, I think, was a dayan. So Rav Nachman says, when they come to our Bezdin for a judgment, Amrinalu, we say to them, Zilu kaimu shtaraichu v'chosu l'dino, go and be mekayim the shtar. Even if it's in a situation where Reuven admitted that he owes Shimon the money and that it's a valid document, still we say nonetheless, go and validate, the document. So therefore says Rav Nachman, Modesh b'shtar sheksavo, that even if Reuven admits that he wrote the document, nonetheless, tzarich l'kaimo, you would still need to validate the signatures and validate the witnesses. So now we get to this interesting concept, something that's called a shtar amona, a document of belief. But I don't know, should we do the Gemara? Maybe let's go weiter. I don't know how we'll explain. Let's see what the best way to explain it is, either to go explain it in the context of the Gemara, or maybe I'll explain what it is now. But Amar Rav Yehuda says, Rav Yehuda Amar Rab, in the name of Ava, O mishtar amona huzeh, eino ne'amon. If he says it's a shtar amona, he's not believed. So okay, what's a shtar amana? A shtar amana is a funny thing. Reuven says to Shimon, why don't I write you a document that says I owe you $100? We have witness, right? We'll get witnesses. They'll sign on the document. It'll be a perfectly valid document. How come Reuven would want to do that? So that if in the future he actually wants to borrow $100 from Shimon, all the paperwork will already be done. And Reuven says to Shimon, look, Shimon, of course I'm trusting that you're not going to come to Bezdin, of course, tomorrow with this document and say that I owe you $100, right? Because I didn't actually borrow $100 from you. I'm just preparing the document so that in the event that at some later point I want to borrow $100 from you, all the paperwork's already done. That's what a shtar amona is. And Reuven basically is just trusting that Shimon the next day is not going to show up in Bezdin and says, look, I have a document saying that Reuven owes me $100. That's what a shtar amona is. So, Amar Yehuda Amar Rav, ha'omer shtar amona uzeh, that if Shimon comes to Bezdin, well, the truth is, we're trying to figure out who exactly is making this claim, but let's just say this for now. So let's say, just so that we can kind of like explain, have a way of sort of explaining this, even though there's going to be different options for exactly how this works out, but as one way of understanding it, let's say that Shimon comes to Bezdin with this document, and he says, Bezdin, look, I have a document that says that Reuven owes me $100, witnesses and everything. And you know what Reuven says? Come on, Shimon. What the heck, man? I thought we were friends. We both know that I never borrowed $100 from you. I wrote that document so that if ever I wanted to borrow $100, the paperwork was already done. But we both know that I never actually borrowed money. That's not right, brother. Why are you coming to Bezdin now and trying to make me pay you the money? You know that I never borrowed it from you. That's what's going on, friends. So again, Amar Yehuda Amar Rab, ha'omer shtar amana uzeh, that if they say, look, this isn't a real document, it's just sort of this sort of document about belief that like Reuven trusted Shimon that he wouldn't actually collect it unless he actually borrowed the money. Eino ne'aman, he's not believed. The Kamerman. Now, who's the one who's making this claim and saying, oh, this document is just in a shtar amana? Ilema de ka'amar love. If it's the borrower, Reuven, right? So Shimon comes with a document that says that Reuven owes him $100. Reuven says, come on, brother, that's just a shtar amana. I never actually borrowed the money. So Pshita, obviously, we would not believe Reuven. Kol kimine, can we just trust Reuven? I mean, that would be ridiculous. If Shimon comes to Bezdin with a document that says that Reuven owes him money, witnesses and everything, and Reuven says, come on, it's just a shtar amana, and he can get out of paying like that? Obviously not. Rather, it's Shimon saying that there's this document that says that Reuven owes Shimon money, and Shimon saying, yeah, no, that's just a shtar amana. That's not really true. Reuven doesn't actually owe me money. So why wouldn't he be believed? Tavay olav bracha. Kol hakavod, Shimon. Such honesty. Of course he should be believed. He's forfeiting the $100 and saying, look, it's just a shtar amana. I never actually lent Reuven the money. So why wouldn't we believe him? The Ka'amri Aiden. Okay, maybe it's the witnesses are saying. So we have this document. The document says that Reuven owes Shimon $100, and the witnesses come. The witnesses who are signed on the document come and they say, "Oh, wait a second. This Shimon, as far as we know, never lent Reuven any money. This is just a shtar amana, just a document that they wrote that in the event that in the future Shimon does lend Reuven $100, the paperwork's already done." Now we say, 1 second. If it's talking about where their signatures were proven from some other place, right? Maybe there was another document that they were signed on that we know to be valid, and they checked the signatures on this document against the signatures on the other document, and they validated that these were in fact the signatures of the witnesses. So then, pshita de lo mehemne. Obviously, then the witnesses would not be believed when they say it's a shtar amana, because it's not like a pesha also a pesha iter, right? Their signatures were proven from some other place. And if it's talking about where their signatures are not being proven from some other place, rather from their own testimony, they're coming and saying, yes, these are our signatures, but it's a shtar amana. Why are they not believed? It's a pesha also a pesha iter. They're saying these are our signatures, but it was a shtar amana. Shimon never actually lent the money to Reuven. So we're trying to figure out who's the one who's saying that it's a shtar amana. Is it Reuven, the borrower, Shimon, the lender, or the witnesses? Who is it? Amar Rava l'olam dekamar love. So Rava says, okay, really it's talking about Reuven, the borrower. He's saying that, look, this document is a shtar amana. I never actually borrowed money from Shimon. And it's like Rav Huna said the name of Rav, and basically we're saying that Rav Yehuda holds in the same way that Rav Huna holds, which is it's teaching us this principle of that since Reuven admits that yes, I know about this document, just that it's a shtar amana, we don't believe him, because once he says, he admits that he knows about this document, so then once he admits that he wrote the document, well then it's a valid document, and that is that. He cannot just turn around now and say, but it's a shtar amana. No, once he says it's a valid document, he can't take that back. Abaye says, no, really it's talking about Shimon, the lender. Now this is very interesting. So Shimon says, oh yeah, this document that says that I'm owed $100 from Reuven, actually it was a shtar amana, I never lent Reuven the money. To which we said, wait a second, if that's the case, Shimon's a big tzaddik. He just said he has an opportunity to collect $100 from Reuven, and he's saying, oh no, I never actually lent Reuven the money. Why wouldn't we believe him? He's a big tzaddik. You know why we don't believe him? Because you think Shimon's a big tzaddik. He's saying, oh yeah, I'm not actually owed the money, I never lent it to Reuven. He's not being such a big tzaddik, because Shimon owes money to Levi. And it's like the Shibuda de Reb Nosson. The Tani Reb Nosson Omer says, Reb Nosson, minayin lenoshe b'chavero mono, b'chavero b'chavero, minayin shemotziin mizeh v'nosnin loze. Tamalom v'nosnin asher osham lo. The Shibuda de Reb Nosson, who can tell me what the Shibuda de Reb Nosson is? The Shibuda de Reb Nosson is that if Reuven owes Shimon money, Reuven owes Shimon $100, but Shimon owes Levi $100, so Levi can go directly to Reuven and say, Reuven, look, you owe Shimon $100, but he owes me $100, just pay me directly. And therefore, what we're talking about is over here a situation where, yeah, we've been talking about where Reuven owes Shimon $100, but guess what? Shimon owes Levi $100. And Shimon says to Levi, look, I don't have $100. But you know what there is? There's this document. And the document says that Reuven owes Shimon $100, and Levi is saying, oh, this is good. Shimon owes me $100, but he says he doesn't have any money. But look, here's this document that says that Reuven owes Shimon money. So if Shimon owes me $100 and Reuven owes Shimon $100, Levi says, amazing, I'll just go to Reuven and say, look, Reuven, don't pay back Shimon. Shimon owes me $100. Don't pay the $100 to Shimon, pay the $100 to me. But here comes Shimon. And Shimon says, that document, it's a shtar amana. I never actually lent money to Reuven. That document is only that if in the future I were to lend money to Reuven, so then all the paperwork would already be done. But I never actually lent money to Reuven, and therefore, Levi, you cannot go to Reuven and ask for the $100 from him. So therefore, yes, it's talking about where Shimon is saying, look, I'm not owed money from Reuven. But it's not because he's such a tzaddik. It's because he actually owes money to Levi, and by saying that this is only a shtar amana, it's not a real document, he never actually lent money to Reuven, it prevents Levi from being able to collect the money directly from Reuven. Wow. So again, Abaye Omer says, Abaye L'olam de Omer Malve, really it's talking about where Shimon says the shtar amana, Uchigon shechav la'acherim, and for example, where he owes money to Levi. Uchd Reb Nosson, and it's like Reb Nosson, the Tani Reb Nosson Omer says Reb Nosson, Minayin l'noshe b'chaver moneh. How do I know that if Levi is owed $100 from Shimon, and Shimon is owed $100 from Reuven, how do I know that Levi can go directly to Reuven to collect the money? Therefore the pasuk says, it says, he'll give it to whoever sort of is owed the money. Not to whoever he borrowed from, but to whoever is owed the money. And therefore, Reuven doesn't have to pay back Shimon necessarily, he can pay back Levi. He could skip Shimon and pay directly to Levi if he owes money to Shimon and Shimon owes money to Levi. Rav Ashi Omer says, Rav Ashi L'olam de Kamri Eidim. Rav Ashi says, actually it's the witnesses who are saying that it's a shtar amana. And it's talking about where their signatures are not being proven from some other place. Meaning they're saying, yes, these are our signatures, but it's a shtar amana. So why don't we say, and you said, but then shouldn't they be believed? Isn't it apesha also apesha itir? They're saying it's our signatures, but it's a shtar amana. Shouldn't they be believed? Kid Rav Kahana, it's like Rav Kahana, the Amr of Kahana, also lo adam sheyasher shtar amana b'soch beiso. It's like Rav Kahana who says that it's forbidden for a fellow to keep a document like this lying around. A shtar amana, a document that says that Shimon lent $100 to Reuven and there's witnesses and all that kind of stuff, but the loan never really happened. You cannot keep such a document around. It's a mess. It can just lead to weird situations where you come and try to collect from it and it never actually happened. Don't leave documents like this lying around. Mishum Shenema, because the pasuk says, Al tashkin ba'alecha avla. Don't have anything sort of corrupt, crooked in your house, such as a document that says that Shimon is owed $100 when he's really not. From Rav Sheshes Brei Davidi, and says Rav Sheshes Brei Davidi Shmamina midu Rav Kahana, that we learned from Rav Kahana, Eden Sha'amu, Amana Yudvarenu, that if witnesses said, look, it was just a shtar amana, Eine Amanim did not believe, my time will come, Kevin the Avlahu, Avla lo chasme, because since a shtar amana is sort of crooked, is corrupt, you don't sign on corrupt things. And therefore, if the witnesses come and say, look, it's our handwriting, it's our signatures, but it was a shtar amana, we don't believe them because they shouldn't have been signing a shtar amana. Very interesting stuff. My throat's really dry again. I'm going to have to chap around a stick of water again in a minute. But this time I'm out of water. I have to go upstairs and chap more water. Amr Yoshua ben Levi, says Yoshua ben Levi, a person cannot leave an already paid document in his house. So if Shimon has a document that says that Reuven owes him $100, and Reuven already paid him the $100, he should not have that document around where he could potentially go to Bezdin and collect again. That's not what, we don't want that. Amr Yoshua ben Levi says, let's read it again. It says, Yoshua ben Levi, a fellow cannot keep an already paid document lying around this house, because the pasuk says, do not have anything corrupt lying around your house. But my Rav Mishmei the Rav Amri, they say in I don't know. I hope I didn't say shtar amana just now. We're talking about an already paid document, a shtar parua. But my Rav Mishmei the Rav Amri in Eretz Yisrael, they say in the name of Rav, im oven biyodcha archikeu. If there's anything corrupt in your hands, keep it far away from you. Zeh shtar amana v'shtar pasim. This is the shtar amana that we've been talking about. A shtar that says that Shimon is owed money by Ruvain, but he never actually lent the money. Or a shtar pasim, some kind of sham document that really is completely, entirely fake, that somebody asked you to write to like show that he has some kind of wealth or something, but it's entirely fake. And don't keep anything corrupt in your house. Zeh shtar parua. This is a document that's already been paid. Manda amar shtar parua, kol sheken shtar amana. Whoever says that you're not allowed to have an already paid document lying around your house, certainly you should not have a shtar amana lying around your house, which is, completely false. Or a shtar amana, it says that Shimon's owed money when he's really not. Umanda amar shtar amana, but according to the opinion, it says that you shouldn't have a shtar amana lying around. Aval shtar parua, low. But you could have, right, it might be okay to have an already paid document lying around your house. Because sometimes they keep an already paid document lying around until the scribe gets paid. Meaning, it is the responsibility of the borrower to pay the fee of the scribe who writes the document. And until so if the borrower borrowed $100, Reuven's the borrower, he borrowed $100 from Shimon. So once Reuven pays back Shimon, what does he want? He wants to get that document back so that he could tear it up and nobody will try to collect it with it again. However, it's Reuven's responsibility to pay the scribe who wrote the document. And until he pays the scribe, he doesn't get back that document that, so it's it sounds like it's like incentive for Reuven to pay the scribe so that he can get the document and tear it up. But until then, Reuven, Shimon can hold on to it. So therefore, there are times when he might hold on to a shtar parua, an already paid document, until the fee for the scribe has been paid. Itmar was stated Sefer Torah, Sefer She'enu Muga. If you have a Sefer Torah that has mistakes in it, Amr Abami says Abami Adlam and Yom Mutter Lashoso, you can keep it around for 30 days. Mikan ve'elach, but after 30 days, also Lashoso, you cannot keep it around. Mishum Shenemar Al Tashkin Ba'alecha Avla, because it says don't keep anything corrupt, crooked, lying around. Okay. I better go and chop a stick of water or something before my throat is really dry. Excuse me. 1 second. Alright, I chopped around a stick of more water. Hopefully that'll help. Let's go weiter. Omer, where am I? Yeah, Omer of Nachman. Says of Nachman, Eidim Sha'amru, Amona ayu dvareinu, ein ne'emanin. So it says of Nachman, look, if they say, it was a shtar amona, so then they're not believed. Moda hayu dvareinu ein ne'emanin. And similarly, if basically it's a situation of an offer they couldn't refuse. Don Carleone, Luca Brasi, and so the witnesses who are so the fellow who's involved in the document is basically saying like, look, I'm only doing this because the other alternative is my brains. So ein ne'emanin. Nonetheless, says of Nachman, they still are not believed. Mar bar Ravashi, Omar says, Mar bar Ravashi, Amona ayu dvareinu ein ne'emanin, that if they say, look, it was a shtar amona, they are not believed. But modah hayu dvareinu ne'emanin. But if they say, look, we signed this document, but it was, we signed this document, but it was clearly a situation where sort of it's a document of a sale of, like, let's say property or something, and he says, the sale only happened under duress. So then ne'emanim, they are believed. My time akom ha'nitan likasev v'lo nitan likasev. That, well, a shtar amana should have never been written in the first place, and therefore they're not believed about it, because they're saying that, we signed this document that really should have never been written in the first place, that it says that Shimon lent Reuven money when he never did. But the other situation where it says that, like, Shimon sold some property or something, but he was really, it was an offer he couldn't refuse, so then they are allowed to sort of sign on the document in order to save this guy's life. But, and therefore, they're believed when they later say, like, look, we really only signed the document in order to save this guy's life. Okay, fine. Ba'amine Rava mi Rav Nachman, Rava asked a kasha from Rav Nachman. Tanoi hayu dvarenu mau. So Rava asked Rav Nachman, he says, look, what if you have witnesses who say, yeah, we signed on this document, but our understanding is that there was also an additional condition, right? Meaning, we signed this document between Reuven and Shimon, but there was some additional condition that had to be met, and as far as we know, that condition was not met. So where am I? Ba'amine Rav mi Rav Nachman, I'm reading that again. So Rav asked Rav Nachman, Tanai hayu dvarenu mau. So what if they say, yeah, we signed this document, but as far as we know, there was an additional condition that sort of had to have been met. It was like a smart contract or something. There's an additional condition that had to be met, and as far as we know, that condition was not yet met. So do we say moda ve'amona hainu taima dika akri le'lishtare? Do we say that, right? So Rav Nachman's opinion was that both when it comes to a shtar amona as well as a moda, in both cases, they are not believed according to Rav Nachman, because it basically uproots the document. The document is completely null and void if they say it's only a shtar amana, or if it was a moda. And we could say that in this case also, they're basically making the document invalid if they're saying that there was some kind of a condition that needs to be met and it was never met. So therefore, basically, the document is useless. So therefore, maybe we would not trust them in this case as well. O Dilma Tanai Milsach Risi. Or do we say that, look, this condition, they're not actually testifying about the document itself. The document itself is fine. They're just testifying that there is some kind of other condition, but it's an under azach. It's a different thing, and the document is still valid. It's a different thing, and therefore we can trust trust them in this case. Omerle, so says Rav Nachman, Ki asu l'kamon ledina, when this kind of a situation happens before me in my bezdin, aminalu, we say to the parties, zilukaimu tanaichu, go and be mekayim your tanai b'chosu ledina, and then do whatever you have to do, and if there are any other issues, then come back, but go and do your tanai. Eid omer tanai ve'eid omer eino tanai. So what happens if there's this document, and then one of the witnesses who signed the document says, yeah, but there was an additional condition, and the other witness says, no, I'm not aware of an additional condition. Amar Papa says, Papa, tarvayu b'shtarim ma'al yakam masade. So Papa says, look, both witnesses are admitting that the document itself is valid. There's a question, was there additional conditions? But everyone is agreeing that the document itself is a valid document, and they're saying that they signed on the document. So what do we have? We basically have a document with witnesses that they both admit that it's a good document. By the Ka'amr Tanai, one of them says, oh yeah, and in addition to the document, there was also a condition. Havale Chad, well, only one of the witnesses is talking about this additional condition, and that one person who says, yeah, but there's also this additional condition that, as far as I know, has not been met, his pointing out that there's this condition is not able to disqualify this document that has been admitted by both witnesses that it's a valid document. Maskif Rav Huna ben Yeshua asked, Yachi, if that's the case, that we're sort of making a distinction between the condition and the document, well then afilu tarvayu nami. Even if both witnesses said that there is an additional condition, still they would, the document would still be valid because they're both admitting that it's a good document. Once they admit that it's a good document, they cannot renege on that by saying, yeah, but there was some condition that may not have been met. Ella, aminan hanan me akasadu sayu kaasu. Rather, what happens with the two witnesses is that they come and they say, look, yes, it's a good document, but there's an additional condition that has to be met, and as far as we know, it hasn't been met, and therefore they're undoing they're basically invalidating the document itself. So Ainami lemeka saduse kaosi. And here also in this case, so meaning we're going to say that when it comes to two witnesses, if they both say yes, these are our signatures, but there was a condition, they're basically coming and saying, and therefore our testimony about the document is irrelevant. Right? We're uprooting our testimony of the document because there's this additional condition that needs to be met that hasn't been met. And therefore, even when one witness comes and says that yes, I signed the document, but there's this condition that needs to be met and hasn't been met, he's basically uprooting his vouching, his testimony of the document, in which case you are only left with one signature on the document, and it is therefore not a valid document. We cannot rely upon that document. And the halacha is like Rav Huna Bar Yeshua, as opposed to Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman had said that when you have witnesses who come and say, yes, these are our signatures, but there's an additional condition, Rav Nachman said that we say to the parties, go and do the condition, and if you have any other issues, come back. Rav Huna Bar Yeshua is saying no, that actually what's happening is that they're saying, yes, these are our signatures, but there's this additional condition that and has not been met, and therefore we cannot vouch for this document. And therefore there's sort of no validity over here. Rav Huna Bar Yeshua and the halacha is like Rav Huna Bar Yeshua, that if they say that these are our signatures, but there's an additional condition that needs to be met, it's basically uprooting their testimony for the document. Friends, that was the view test of Masechet Ksubis. Another very interesting daf. Continue exploring Apesha also Apesha Hitir. We saw this concept of a shtar amona, right? That right when you have a document that says that Reuven owes Shimon money, but the document Reuven never actually borrowed money from Shimon. It was just a document that was written for the future, just in case Reuven would borrow money from Shimon. And we tried to understand it from different perspectives. That maybe we could be saying that it's from the perspective of the borrower, that we don't trust him because once he admits that he wrote the shtars and he can't retract it. Maybe it's from the position of the lender and he's not believed because maybe Shimon, the lender, actually owes money to Levi, and it's like the Shibud of Noson that we talked about, that if Reuven owes money to Shimon, Shimon owes money to Levi, Levi can collect directly from Reuven. And then we said also maybe it's talking about the witnesses, that maybe it's saying that we don't trust the witnesses vis-a-vis a shtar amana, because like Rav Kahana, who says that you're not allowed to have a shtar amana lying around your house because it's crooked, it's corrupt, and therefore the witnesses had no business signing that document in the first place. We talked about the concept of shtar parua. If you have a document that's already been paid, you shouldn't leave that lying around the house to potentially be able to get paid a second time with it. The only exception being potentially if they're keeping it around until the borrower pays the fee of the scribe. And we also saw this concept of a moda'ah, which is a sort of witnesses who sign a document, but they're only signing the document because otherwise they would have killed one of the other parties to the deal. And then we also talked about a situation where witnesses say that they signed the document, but there were additional sort of conditions, and they're not aware that those conditions have been met. Rav Nachman said, look, even in that case, the document is still valid, whereas Rav Huna Bar Yeshua says, no, if they said they signed the document, but there's a condition that needs to be met, then the document is not valid. Friends, that was the few tests of Masechta Ksubis. Hope you enjoy. Peace out.